Well, I've decided to document some of this stuff and try to share some of the things I've learned. This is my 1/5 scale BT-13 project that I've been working on. Started out with a fiberglass fuselage from American Eagle, and it's actually, between it, the wings and everything, it's built from using things from 3 different sets of plans. American Eagle is one, Burt Baker plans, and Pat Massey plans. So different parts are made from different things, but I decided I wanted to try to cover this with aluminum sheet. As you can see, I've come a long way as to what I had here, and I'm getting there, but I thought I'd share some of the different things that I've learned how to do it in case anybody else is interested. I've been reading and watching RCU for a long time, and I've learned an amazing amount of techniques and different things, and so I'd like to pay it back a little bit and share some of the things that I've found. I've made some of the different I'll go over the aircraft. We're going to start, I guess, on how to do some rivets and different things. We'll start out with the louvers. They're not complete because I don't have the inner portion done. That'll be in aluminum. They're just blacked out right now. Some of the panels, the rivet lines, I've used from micro fasteners, some nice screws that once I get them all recessed and finished up is the closest thing I could find to Zeus fasteners in size and everything. Had a friend of mine was a machinist, made me some nice aluminum handles. Got a nice little gasket that's going to be for my antenna mast. I decided to make my own canopy and windscreen. I've never done anything like this before. This is real dirty because I was doing some grinding, so it needs some good cleaning. I may end up remaking this. There's my first canopy. It'll have functional canopies. Here, Sean, would you take the video camera and you want to talk about? I'll show you the rail here. Some of the things that I've done that I think might be of interest to other people. For one thing, the canopy rails are brass. On the full-scale aircraft, they're not brass. If you look right here, it's not brass. And I'll tell you how to make these silver, which looks a whole lot better to me. When I was in the Air Force, I taught a high reliability soldering course, and we would reuse some of the boards to try to save money. And what we found after we tinned the leads on the circuit boards, you can take all the components off, you can take most of the solder off, but you can never get it all off. It always leaves a thin film no matter how hard you try to get it off. And this being brass, I thought it would work the same way, and it turns out it does. That I put a little flux on here, solder carefully so I don't go into the groove, and just put solder along it, and then I come along and heat it and just let all the solder run off and wipe it off till it's basically tinned, is what you would call it. And it's got a light coating of tin and solder on it, so I don't have the brass colored canopy rails. As you see back here, I've got to do the rest of them. The BT-13 has several pieces to its canopy. Windscreen, the front sliding canopy, which actually I made a form out of that I just put in the oven. Cut a piece of plastic. Here's my fixed canopy that goes behind the front slider canopy. I just put it in the oven. I put some big black office clips on here. It was laid out flat, so as it heated, it pulled it down over it, and it worked out good. There's my transparency. Then I used some canopy glue, cut some thin strips of aluminum, got my framework. Next, I'll put in the rest of the canopy bracing. I might as well tell you how I did the windscreen. The windscreen, I made a form. This is how I started off. It was a lot of work just making the form. Before I cut all this out, I glued sandpaper to the fuselage and just worked it back and forth till I got the contour, because that's next to impossible just to cut the first time out. So I got that shape right, and that was for my transparency. All this is one piece of Lexan because I knew I needed some strength, and with this thin metal I couldn't really get the strength. If I'd have used real thick metal on this, it would look more like a tank windscreen than an aircraft windscreen. So I used the transparency material itself for the strength, and then attached everything to that. So after I made this, I made a sheet metal fixture on it, because the first time I put this in, I kind of melted the plastic to it and ruined the surface. I didn't want to impart that, so I realized if I use that same shape but just bent the metal. So then when I laid my plastic over that in the oven, it just laid down similar to the way the other one did. And I just come back and trimmed it, used this as my pattern and trimmed around it, and then built everything onto that. Again, I'll probably redo this. It's kind of rough. This piece I was thrilled, but I think I can do a lot better. It's almost looks like, again, a tank windscreen, but I'm going to redo that. Like I was saying, you got a windscreen, front sliding canopy. There will be a fixed canopy here, and then there's a rear canopy and a turtle deck. Matter of fact, right there is what it should look like, or somewhere close to that. So I'll kind of document that in case anybody's interested in making their own canopies, just how I do it. I don't know that it's the best way. I don't know that it's, you know, anything other than just what I've done with what I've got. As we move back, some of the I've used from Nelson Hobbies has these nice small piano hinges. And these rivets you see here, little copper rivets, I actually found from Charlie's Hobby Shop up here. Was closing some stuff out, and one of the things they had was this old box of rivets that SIG used to make. I guess they're discontinued, but I'm sure glad I bought them now. All this tape looks pretty ugly, but you can see these are actually movable access panels for access to the back of the instrument panel on the full scale. But you can see all the rivets really add a nice touch, and it's probably the best way to attach a hinge to a panel like this anyway. So it worked out real good with the little rivets. And you can see they add some nice detail in there. Some of the bigger panels here, these are actually removable side panels on the full-scale aircraft. 7 quick release fasteners. That whole thing comes off. You can see in the side of the aircraft and see the tubular frame that's inside that actually is the structure of the aircraft. So those panels are fairly easy to